All right, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to RickCast. It is a beautiful Wednesday, the 14th of May, 2025. In case I ever say 2024, no, I mean 2025, 2025. I hope everybody's having a wonderful Wednesday evening. Shout out to everybody watching across Getter, Rumble, X, YouTube, and my one watcher on Twitch. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everybody's having a good night. Got a good show for you. Middle of the week is always tough. We're getting into May, June, July, which means the news stories are going to get drier and drier, for lack of a better term. This is essentially the off season. And yeah, we're going to be fine. We're going to have a lot of fun because the show is not about the news. It's about us getting together and kind of talking about what's happening out there worldwide. G Money, you are worldwide. You're Mr. Worldwide. What's going on, my man? Great to see you guys as always. So happy to have you guys with me. My bar rats need to kind of filter in right now. So we're going to make sure we give them the appropriate time to get in, grab a seat, get comfy, and we're going to get to work as I talk into my little Death Star. I love this little microphone. I'm not going to lie. I've had the expensive ones, the expensive microphones, and I just think that I found this one. I actually bought this one for road trips and stuff because it was small and compact and I could bring it somewhere. But I actually ended up falling in love with it. And I really, it's a condenser mic, unlike the, people are like, you need the omnidirectional expensive mics. And not gonna lie, this little condenser mic is really just awesome. And I'm really happy with it. So logistics, Logitech, you get a thumbs up from RickCast for a pretty decent mic. I just guess people don't want to be talking into a ball. I don't care. Anyway, we are going to be talking about the Menendez brothers' sentence being reduced. Probably, it's one of these things, just like the Britney Spears thing. There's a documentary or there's some kind of media coverage of it. And then all of a sudden, there's this push for some kind of legal action, or we need to do this, or this needs to get changed. Probably a result of that. So maybe. Talk about, people were already worried about the summer of 2025 being spicy. Well, hold on to your butts, because apparently Derek Chauvin is maybe going to be released from, or maybe get his pardon. Okay, I didn't see that coming, and I don't think anybody really liked to see that coming, and I don't know how people are actually going to respond to that. I don't think it's a good idea, but like I said, hold on to your butts, because we actually might get it. Now, of course, is it both? Because he's got federal and state charges. And if he is pardoned on the federal charges, that's a problem, because right now I think he's here in Texas somewhere, at a much less dangerous federal prison, as opposed to, if that one does get pardoned, he gets moved back to a state prison in Minneapolis, or in Minnesota somewhere. He'll probably die. I'm just saying that he'll probably be unalived. Something bad will happen to him up there. So even his family is like, no pardon, no federal pardon, don't do it. And the fact that it's even being considered is kind of shocking. We're going to talk about the White House banning agencies from G20 work in South Africa. And going along with that, Gronk is unpromptedly telling ex-users about South African white genocide. So based Gronk in that, Grok, I always say Gronk, base Grok in that point. So good for Grok, maybe. And so we're going to talk about that. Pope Leo the 14th. Yes, I said I'm not going to talk about Leo anymore, and I'm going to, you know what? I'm being completely honest. I'm not being morbid. This would probably be the last pope of my lifetime. So it's because he's 69, 29. I'm 43. I just try to keep things in perspective. Both my parents died at 60, so it's in the genetics that maybe something like that may happen, despite my best efforts. But there's a lot of excitement and hope around this pope, and I want to call out some of the contrasts for the the MAGA media, who they say that this pope was elected to contrast Trump and all these things. They're going to use this as a wedge issue, what he said today. And I want to speak up and try to give you the correct Catholic position on that regard. Disney's next CEO is apparently, because Bob Iger is leaving in 2026. So the game is afoot for the next Disney CEO. So we'll kind of get that idea and give the odds and take a look at that as well. I mean, I hope I have a lot more than 20 years. I hope I have that. But every day is a gift, and we don't want to presume anything. We don't want to be presumptive and put our better days in the future, because obviously I'll live to 75, 80, blah blah blah. You never know, man. Nothing is guaranteed, and that's not a morbid perspective. That is a, hey, live your life every day, my friend. So we'll see how it goes. The revenge of Chapek, right? That would be Michael Thomas. Ironic enough, Chapek is not coming back. He took his golden parachute, and like I would, GTFO'd. I would have GT. Oh no, I gotta leave. $40 million golden parachute. Bye. Just disappear off the map. Couple key investments. Just sit on the beach with Mai Tais and enjoy your retirement. So we'll take a look at that as well. Got a couple hot takes, and of course your commentary, which is going to make the show that much better on all of our platforms. And I appreciate you guys being here on this wonderful Wednesday evening. Like I said, this time of year gets a little dry. There's definitely stories to talk about, but there's some other things. I don't have anything on it, but we're getting stuff like President Trump went to Qatar. He went to Saudi Arabia. He's doing like his Middle East swing tour. And he went to Saudi Arabia, and I was going to Qatar, and my nose is stuffy. I'm sorry. It was 100 degrees today, so like all the male pollen trees are just blah. They're all blaring all over the place, and it's punching me in the face. I forgot to take a decongestant pill. But anyway, so he's in Qatar, and they are rolling out the red carpet for Trump on this one. They got like cyber trucks, and they greeted him at the border with jets, and people like Nick Sotor, failed Catholic. And I say failed Catholic. I hope he comes back. He was one of those people. He was on Timcast when Pope Leo XIV was elected. And he was like, I went to Catholic school, but then with Francis, I left. You jerk. You wuss. But he found a new idol in Nick Sotor's defense. He found a new idol in Trump. And so he's like, look at this interest. All right. I'm talking about it. I might as well show you guys instead of having you guys look at my ugly face. But the propaganda that people are just absolutely laying out right now for this Qatar entrance with Trump is kind of pathetic in a lot of ways. Let's take a look at this one. And I don't know how you could be somebody like Nick Sotor and have any respect for yourself, because this is pathetic. I get it, because that's where the money is. That's where the money is. I have to understand that's where the money is with these people. But look at this thing. Just read this headline. President Trump's motorcade is being escorted by cyber trucks in Qatar. Epic. Ugh. And they almost expect like an 80s guitar. Like, calm down. Calm down, dude. This is all propaganda. You think anybody in Qatar is going to mess with Trump? No, because they'll nuke it off the map. Nothing's going to happen to them. It's all performative. And then you have this thing where it's like, epic view of Air Force One from F-15 as Trump lands in Qatar. Last time president received fighter jet welcome was Ronald Reagan. Dude, you can feel. I can't say the joke that I want to say online because I'll probably get banned, and this is more of a family show. But can you not have your nose so far up his nether regions? Look at this epic escort for President Trump's motorcade on his way to the Qatari palace. No other president has gotten anything like this. The world respects us again. All right, dude. Got it. Easy, buddy. Just, maybe let it go the 4 hours before you take another pill. I'm sorry. I can't do all this. I can't, celebrate. I guess Nick Sotor, Trump is his Lord and Savior, but because he replaced, it is like, calm down, people. It's all propaganda. But it gets clicks, it gets retweets, it gets likes, it gets shares, the MAGA faithful, and that's fine. If you're a Trumpster, I'm not saying, idolatry is obviously bad. We shouldn't worship any person. There's no person on this earth worth worshiping. Donald Trump has his negative qualities, just like everybody else. The Pope is not above reproach. Nobody is above reproach. But there is this, and it was the same thing that we used to make fun of the left with Obama. We used to make fun of the left with Obama and how they worshipped him. There's a huge cult of people that, for lack of a better term, and we need to be able to call this out, you got to stop worshiping Trump. Because he doesn't do everything good. He does some good things, but he does some bad things. And we need to be able to call him out as such. Not because we hate him, but because he is in the position to affect it, and he needs to be called out. You have to be able to call these things out. So, I didn't want to talk about it, but I guess I did. All right, let's get to our 2 hot takes, ladies and gentlemen, before we get to the show. This one's actually pretty funny. This is just a real quick one. if you have streaming, if you've ever had HBO, Catholics, please, I know HBO is bad. It's got Game of Thrones and nudity. I'm not condoning it. I'm not even talking about HBO. I'm talking about the marketing and how this whole thing went down. But HBO today has decided that they are going to they're going to name their streaming service HBO Max again, because apparently there was one person in their boardroom that really thought Max would be this just epic name for a streaming service. And eventually they realized that was a stupid idea and they went back to HBO Max. Now, credit to them because their social media team has decided to take the lumps in stride. But this is just a classic case of overthinking for a company, overthinking and just making it harder than it really should be. I thought it was funny. The memes from the HBO Twitter account have been actually pretty good today. Pretty much with the mea culpa with all of that. Speaking of mea culpas, I did not expect to talk about this either. But since it's kind of a slow day, we're going to talk about all this kind of stuff. I remember a couple days ago, I came on here and I said, listen, guys, the Pope's Twitter account or the Pope's X account is not going to be official until he gets installed on the 18th at the papal mass. Yeah. Mea culpa, mea maxi culpa. I'm trying to find, because he has one in Latin. Here it is. Pope Leo the 14th is now on X with his 18 million followers. And pretty great to see the Holy Father there. Really, some really nice tweets that are being put out. Also has it in Latin, which apparently Pope has always had the Vatican has always had a Latin Twitter account or a Latin X account. But if you're into Latin, there you go. Pope Leo Papa the 14th has his own Latin X account. And of course people are responding to it in Latin, it's like, okay, that's excellent. But it's kind of funny that I was off by 4 days. So mea culpa, mea maxi culpa. I really thought they were going to wait until after he was put in to actually do it. So yeah, it is what it is in that regard. But the Pope is now on X. He's also on Instagram, and the memes around Pope Leo the 14th are also pretty funny as well. But yes, he is back. So hopefully if you are on X or you are on Instagram, you can follow the Holy Father and see what he has to say. So far, so good. And we like it. We're going to also talk about some stuff in a couple moments. Now, finally, so Cesar is asking, sorry, I have a buddy named Cesar. You guys are close. Cesare said, what did Trump say when he met with the Christian killer from Syria? It's a great question. Nobody knows, but I don't think Trump really pressed him on it. You would hope, but I don't know. Probably didn't say anything. Lou, it's okay that you're late. We haven't gotten into our stories yet. So it's okay about that. We're just glad you're here, Lou, as always. Yeah, his posts so far have been very Catholic centered, very much focused on our Lord and Savior. One of his posts today, they've been very good, and just reading about how Cardinal Prevost was essentially rallied behind by the Catholics, the American Catholic cardinals, to prevent Polian. Because I don't think we understand how close we were to a true Francis II in Cardinal Parolin. He was 100% behind Francis, and the Italians. Understand this from everything that I've read, which, by the way, none of these cardinals are supposed to talk about it, but they do. The Italians looked at this as their last shot to get the papacy back, because the College of Cardinals has expanded in such a way that they were worried. That's why they were kind of really desperate to get Parolin back in there. But it's very interesting. Also, I have to mention this. Apparently, our Holy Father has Creole and Black and Cuban ancestry, which I don't care that he has Creole and Cuban ancestry. It's very American to have, different ancestries in your background. That's just part of who we are. I Irish, Italian, and French heritage in my background. My wife has Spanish, Mexican, and French and Native American. Like, we all have it. So it's not a shock that the Holy Father from America has different lineages coming down. The thing that really gets me is the fact that it's Creole, that it had to be Creole, because now the Louisianans will not shut up about it. Like, the Louisianans, they want to brag about crawfish. And I don't know if I may catch some flack on this, but crawfish is gross. It's absolutely gross. I've never worked so hard for so little meat. And they brag about it like it's a good thing. Like, let's be real. Crawfish are the cockroach of the sea. And yet people are Cesare. Yep. They will not shut up about this. Like, we got the Holy Father. Like, it was annoying when the Chicagoans were doing it, but at least they were like, oh, the Pope and all that. It was kind of funny. These guys, like, the Chicagoans were taking it with like a little bit of pride. They were giving away like jerseys at the White Sox games. Kind of funny. Like, oh, okay, that's cute. The Louisianans are going to be like, we got the Pope now, and we got that Pope, and that means we are super Catholic, and we are the most Catholic people here. Okay, yes, you are. We get it. And it's like, come on, man. And this is not all, but no, thank you. As soon as I saw that, I went, dear Lord, help us all. Oh, help us all. Oh, because that's pride. Anyway, I think I've killed enough time to get you guys in here and let you in. And so for, yeah, right. The Holy Father singing in Latin brought a tear. Yep. All that kind of stuff. Yeah, Michael, that's really all of this kidding aside. It's really great to have Catholicism being embraced and having such a strong tailwind behind it right now. And I'm just, praise be to God, right? That's all that matters. Praise be to God for all this, and may God bless the Holy Father as we continue. All right, let's get to I got blah 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 blah. Once again, just talking out of my nose. All right, let's get to one more hot take here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. I think you remember this guy, Representative Cherie Tartar. His effort to impeach President Trump failed because this guy's such a genius, he missed the deadline to actually file the paperwork. I'll repeat, a member of Congress who has the power to at least file the articles of impeachment missed the deadline. But don't worry, he has an excuse.
Constitutional duties. There is no doubt about it, and not a single member of the Democratic Party. You can ask even some Democrats have called me lunatic, just like the president has called me lunatic.
Yeah. Yes, you're correct, Lou. He is a moron. So it's fitting justice that this genius that is a supposedly, esteemed, right, the honorable Shahir Tandararar, can't even figure out how to put this stuff. He doesn't have anybody smart enough on his staff to be like, here, we gotta file the paperwork. What are you talking about? I will file the paperwork when I want to file the paperwork. You didn't tell me these things. Oh, no, sir, you got to file the paperwork. I will file the paperwork when I want to file it. Okay. Next day, sir, you missed the deadline. What are you talking about? I did not miss no deadline. All I'm saying is you can't do it anymore. Some poor staffer is following this guy around like, sir, you got to file the articles. I will file the articles when I want to file. You go away now. You go get me food. Yeah, I'm just on fire tonight. I just feel like, why not? It's very freeing. I don't care. I'm just going to make everybody mad tonight. So let's have some fun with it. My bar rats, thank you for being here. All right, let's get to it, ladies and gentlemen. I just laugh thinking about some poor staffer who, he went to Harvard and then he went to all these other places. His dream job is to be a congressman, and then he got assigned to Shiri Tarika Burger. And he's like, sir, the articles of impeachment need to be filed tomorrow. I will file them when I want to file them. I have to go on MSNBC right now. He's like, okay, I'm going to just sit back here. Have a good one. Anyway, let's get to our first story. I am on fire tonight, aren't I? Oh, well, making friends everywhere I go. First story up. Yeah, we're going to talk about this because this is exciting for Catholics. My evangelical brothers and sisters, everybody watching on Getter and Rumble and all the other places are like, why are you talking about, how is he different from Francis? Why are you talking about this? Well, because the previous Holy Father was very focused on social issues and progressive issues. Now, you had to give Francis credit because he did continue to call out Gaza, and he was always mindful of the Christians who are being persecuted in Gaza. And Steve Cunningham and I have brought up many times that when Trump talks about, Mara Gaza and all of these other things and moving the Palestinians out so they can go somewhere else, that includes Palestinian Christians. Palestine has Bethlehem in it. I believe so. There are, if not Bethlehem, there are Catholic sites that Palestinian Christians have access to. And by the way, Pizza Balla, everybody's favorite, my favorite, they were never going to elect him because Gaza was too hot. They were never going to elect him because of the Middle East. And besides the fact he was more conservative than that. But to have Pope Leo XIV come out to make every effort to work for peace in regions where Christians are persecuted and forced to flee. That's not even the hot take here. That's not even the headline. Where is it where he says do not flee from these places. They should not be forced out of these places. Here it is. I'll talk about the rest of it, but this was the big deal that I thought. I thank God for those Christians, Eastern and Latin alike, who, above all in the Middle East, preserve and remain in their homelands, resisting the temptation to abandon them. Christians must be given the opportunity and not just the words to remain in their native lands with all the rights needed for a secure existence. That's huge. And I think that I'm glad the Holy Father is coming out and saying, hey, everybody, the Israel, Trump, everybody's too busy trying to remove the Christians. The Christians have every right to be there, and they should not be forced out of it. They should not be forced away from it. And so I'm happy to see that. I'm happy to see the Holy Father coming out and saying, no. They need to stay. They need to be there. They have every right to be there. That's a pretty powerful statement from the Holy Father a couple days into the pontificate. And of course, because it's kind of a pushback, I want to see if and when MAGA, and that includes guys like Jack Posebic and others, how they address this. Are they going to fit as an anti? Because this is not anti-Trump. This is pro-Catholic. It's not anti-Trump. This is pro-Christian. Not everything is framed in a pro or negative of Trump. And we need to get out of that. Catholics need to be framed pro or not. Does this advance the faith or does it negatively impact the faith? And in this case, it positively impacts the faith. Because it says, stay where you are, Christians. Do not leave, right? Leo praised those Christians who are working at reconciliation, even in regions where they are persecuted minorities. That's a call to action. You are Catholic. You stay, right? We as Catholics, we flourish in the face of persecution. We flourish in the face of hardship. And it's fantastic. So just a little bit more. Pope Leo XIV vowed to take every effort Wednesday to work for peace in the Middle East and Ukraine and actively promote the spirituality and traditions of the Eastern Rite churches, whose Catholic communities with origins in the Mideast and Eastern Europe that have been decimated for years by conflict and persecution. The church needs you, Leo told a Holy Year audience of Eastern Rite pilgrims. Which, by the way, it's also good to see the Holy Father reaching out across the aisle and reaching out to our Eastern brothers and sisters and recognizing them. Eastern Rite Catholics accept the authority of the Pope, but have many of their own rich. That's fine. If I don't know how, if any Catholics in the audience, you ever been to an Orthodox mass? The what is it? The Orthodox, not the Maronites. There's I forgot. When I was in Charlotte, I went to an Orthodox mass. It was pretty dope. I'm not gonna lie. I think I talked about it here on the show. I forgot the name of it. I'll have to ask Steve next time. I'm on with him. But yeah, they have their own, but they all there's actually people just think of the Roman Catholic Church as just the Roman Catholic Church, the Universal Catholic Church, which Catholic is universal. I repeat myself, the Catholic Church. But there's actually like 21 or 22 rites. Somebody in the chat can correct me. That recognize the authority. I already mentioned one, the Maronites, the Orthodox. It's not that one. It's the Melikites. It could be. I don't know off the top of my head because I'm stupid. So either way, I know there's definitely some Catholics in our chat that'll say there's 22 or 23 different rites in addition to the Roman Catholic Church that recognize and fall under the Catholic Church. So when people are like, oh, what the Eastern Orthodox? No, they're Catholic. They are. So it is what it is in that regard. In his remarks, Leo acknowledged that many Eastern Rite Catholics have been forced to flee their homelands because of war and persecution, instability, and poverty. It was a reference to the exodus of Christians from the Middle East, Iraq, and Syria, especially, where entire communities have been dispatched by years. They're going to say Islamic extremist violence. It's also violence funded by the U.S. Let's not get it twisted. The U.S. had a huge part in the funding of the violence that has persecuted Christians throughout the Middle East. Many of these communities in northern Iraq were some of the oldest of the faith, where the dialects of Aramaic are still spoken, like the Maronite Mass. So really good to hear our Holy Father talk about these things. Really good to hear these things being talked about. Saint, this is just gonna bug me. Aquinas Church. Sorry, I just bugging me. Let me see if I can get this. Is it? No, it's not it. I guess I won't be able to do it. Anyway. Oh no, this is it. See if I can find the actual schedule. Go up. English. Oh, they don't have it, do they? No. Okay. Well, that was fun, but no. Okay. All right. Sorry. So that is what we were dealing with the Catholic. I know I'm all over the place. Apologize. Let me get back to the show, and very happy with this with the Holy Father. This is RickCast. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. Continue to help the show grow. I appreciate everybody taking part and trying to help me as much as possible, considering that I can be kind of silly at times. Second story up. This one came out of nowhere, and I got to give credit to Miss Megan Rose for pointing this out. She sent me this early in the morning, like, hey, people are talking about this. You need to talk about this tonight. And apparently we are going to. But apparently the Menendez brothers are one step closer to freedom. I mean, that's a blast from the past in my case. That's crazy. And when I saw this, I'm like, these dudes are still alive. Anyway, here's a video to give you an idea of what's going on.
Controversial resentencing hearing for Eric and Lyle Menendez starts today. The brothers are serving a life sentence for the 1989 murders of their parents. KTLA's Annie Rose Ramos is in Van Nuys with the latest. Annie Rose, good morning.
Hi, Jess. Good morning to you. Yeah, this is a 2-day resentencing hearing that begins this morning that could bring the brothers closer to their release, even as LA's district attorney says he believes they're not ready.
I don't think they should be resentenced right now. They've not come clean with all the lies that they've told for the last 30 years of their crime, and full insight into one's actions is a huge signal that you've been rehabilitated. And if you haven't been rehabilitated, you continue to constitute a risk of violence and danger to society. Now that's backed up by the new evidence. Now we have board certified psychologists that are also agreeing.
The district attorney now pointing toward a state parole board comprehensive risk assessment. The board determining that each of the Menendez brothers constituted a moderate risk of violence to the public. The report citing actions by the brothers, including a January incident where Eric Menendez was allegedly found with a cell phone that was illegally brought into prison.
He violates the rules of the prison that he's at when he gets an illegal cell phone and works with another person inside and outside the facility to get that illegal cell phone. I mean, you would think that someone would be on their best behavior if they knew that a judge was going to consider their resentencing motion.
The standard for the judge on a presumption on DA initiated is, are they likely to commit a super strike? Last time I looked, cell phones in prison are not a super strike.
All right, in this case, a super strike would be a highly violent crime like murder. During this 2-day hearing that's starting today, the judge will...
You know, like the original crime that they committed, murder.
Ultimately determine whether the brothers who were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole should receive a lesser sentence. Now, the big question is, will Eric and Lyle Menendez testify? We're told it isn't likely. Now, back here live, we're going to leave you with a live look from in front of the courthouse. Now, as we've seen in previous hearings, there are no cameras allowed inside, but there is a lottery where 16 seats will be given to members of the public, and they're giving out those lottery tickets starting out this hour as we speak. All right, reporting live. I'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
So this is quite interesting how this has come out of nowhere. So this Los Angeles judge has decided to reduce the sentence, which I don't know if I'm ever a huge fan of stuff like that. I feel like this is more of a result of the Netflix documentary. You know, those things come out. You had the issue, and this happens before. Remember if you can, there was the Free Britney documentary or whatever it was about Britney Spears. And then there was this push to have her father removed as the conservator of the relationship because he was so evil and blah, blah, blah. And then now she's running around half naked, you know, cutting up knives in front of cameras because nobody's watching her because we needed to free Britney. But I feel like a lot of these legal proceedings are taking place because of media and the impact of media on the court system. And it's like, no, the media is not supposed to have this much of an impact on the court system. It's not. It's just, it is what it is in that regard. But they have a hearing scheduled before the board on June 13th regarding the clemency petition. In May 2023, their attorney filed a petition for habeas corpus. Good thing they're not illegal immigrants, or else that would have gotten suspended. Seeking a new trial due to evidence of SA, which is abuse of an intimate nature. Trying to say it so I don't get kicked off of YouTube. Trial lawyer Ann Brimmer mentioned that the brothers will need to prepare to impress the parole board regarding their conduct since incarceration. I don't like, I mean, if you have the initial sentence of life without parole, guess what? Your attorney is terrible because it's terrible. The decision has been rendered. That's it. I'm not a big fan of the appeals process unless it can be demonstrated that there was something in the first trial that was either not filed correctly or there was some kind of procedural error. I'm a big fan of okay, you can have an appeal, you can have a retrial based on, or you can have it looked at based on some kind of stuff like that. Like, oh, all right, well, this wasn't filed properly, or this wasn't this, or blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But now it's like, oh, well, there's evidence of their past, which no, not that should have all been discovered back in the trial. That was the time for it. Not this, 20 years later, oh, by the way, type stuff. Oh, well, these guys have been really good in prison. I don't care. The justice system has rendered its verdict. Mark is correct. Their parents didn't get an appeal process. Their parents did not get an appeal process. And so I don't like them. I don't like appeals. Lyle and Eric Menendez, who have spent more than 3 decades in prison, were resentenced on Tuesday, moving one step closer to potential freedom after a day-long hearing. Los Angeles Superior Court Judge Michael Jisic reduced their sentence from life in prison without parole to 50 years to life. This makes them eligible for parole. Get out of here. Under California's youthful offender law, of course, because they committed these murders before they were 26. How is that youthful offender? 20, you're 20, you're an adult at 21. You're an adult at 21. Why is that even, a youthful, if it happened under the age of 26, they're 4 years away from essentially being middle-aged men, and you're still calling them youth. That's your first problem. That's your first problem. The way this is even being framed, the youthful offender law, you're not youthful at 26. You're almost an old man. You're close to Social Security. You're closer to Social Security, right? Most people, Mark, are adults by that point. They have jobs, or they used to have jobs, and they used to be married, and they used to pay bills and file their own taxes and do all these other things. Under California, apparently, you might as well call. That's why I guess they call California Neverland, because you're just a youthful discretion at the age of 35, huh? The brothers were found guilty in 1996 of murdering their parents, Kitty and Jose Menendez, when Eric was 18 and Lyle was 21. They were full-fledged adults. No, not their dad was a monster, their mother was a pill popper. They were not in fear of their life at that moment when they, did what they did. Yeah, true. The brothers maintained that the killings were in self-defense, saying they had been abused by their father and feared for their lives. Well, they sure as hell spent the money that they got from that real quick. They sure had a plan for spending that money really quickly as soon as the murders took place. While there has been a small but vocal group of supporters defending the Menendez, the Netflix documentary and docudrama brought renewed attention and sympathy to the brothers' case last year because they framed them as victims. You know who couldn't participate in the Netflix documentary? Mr. and Mrs. Menendez, because they're dead. This reframing of everything. How everything has to be reframed. It's ridiculous. Their defense has also claimed there is new evidence bolstering their essay claims. In October 2024, then Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon recommended the brothers be resentenced, citing the complexity surrounding the essay, violence, and their continuous rehabilitative efforts during their incarceration. Don't care. You're supposed to be good in prison or you die. It's that simple. It's really that simple. So I don't really know what the problem is. But yes, that's what's going on here. I guess we have to keep our eye on it, but that's ridiculous. There's so much wrong with this. The Netflix documentary, the fact that they are going under this youthful criminal law or whatever the case may be, because they were under the age of 26, although the older one was 21, so he was skirting the line on that one. And this is just gross. It's gross, and I hate it, and I think it's terrible. They lost their trial. You have to suffer the consequences of the loss of trial. It's that simple. Maybe you shouldn't blow all the money you got on Knicks games. So there it is what it is. All right, guys, I struggled earlier. I was actually able to text Steve during that break. I went to the St. Basil Ukrainian Rite when I was in Charlotte. That was the Ukrainian Orthodox, and that was awesome. So if you ever get a chance to go to Ukrainian Orthodox Mass or rite or service or whatever they call it, I'm stupid. Go to it. It's a lot. It's pretty great, especially if you're a Catholic. You're like, this is pretty neat stuff. And it's all under the banner of the Catholic Church. I love it. All right. Let's move on to our next story here on RickCast. Trump is just absolutely going one off on South Africa, and I'm here for it. I am here for it. So, White House bans agencies from G20 work in South Africa. What do you think? Trump saw that G20 movie with what's her face on Amazon. He's like, this could happen. Maybe we shouldn't go to South Africa. There's a movie. Viola Davis was in it. She's not very good, but the movie's good and it could happen. We shouldn't go. All right. The White House National Security Council issued orders that prohibit these United States agencies and departments from working with the G20 convention in South Africa this year. According to sources familiar with the matter, the decision by the White House officials come after U.S. President Donald Trump called for a boycott of the summit over the new expropriation law. Words are fun. President Trump said he will not attend the G20 conference set to be held in November in Johannesburg until the, quote, situation is taken care of, unquote, accusing South Africans of carrying out genocide against white citizens. Now, breakingnews.net can do that, but guess who isn't? Gronk. Gronk is unpromptedly telling X users about South African white genocide. So Elon Musk's AI chatbot, Gronk, appears to be experiencing a bug on Wednesday that caused it to reply to dozens of posts on X with information about the white genocide. I'm not putting it in quotes because it is a white genocide in South Africa. Where is it? Even when the user didn't ask anything about it. The strangest response stems from an X account for Gronk, which replies to users with AI-generated posts whenever somebody tags at Gronk. Like, Gronk, is this true? When asked about unrelated topics, Gronk repeatedly told users about the white genocide as well as the anti-apartheid chant. I can't read it because I'll probably get booted off of YouTube because they're, jerks. Gronk's odd, unrelated replies are a reminder that AI chatbots are still nascent technology and may not always be a reliable source of information. However, it's hard to push back when even Gronk is like, white genocide. According to sources familiar with the matter, the decision by the White House officials comes. Oh, I already said that. On the other hand, I didn't. Call for a boycott over the. On the other hand, Pretoria strongly denied the accusations. What a shock. It's not like other governments have denied genociding their people. This is the only time when the Africans are like, what are you talking about? We are not massacring these people. And everybody goes, yep, good enough for me. We just do the chant for fun. We do not actually want to do it. We only do the chant and then only kill about 50 boar a year. I don't know why they're turning into like Irish. Sorry. My African accents are bad. You do. I know. Because no, you know what? Never mind. So good for Trump. There's no reason to go to the G20. I wouldn't go to South Africa. South Africa's trash. It's really not doing well because the infrastructure that was created by the Dutch and the European settlers has been left to rot because Africans don't know how to maintain things. And that's not a racist comment. There's actually a documentary on YouTube where the Chinese are starting to figure this out as well. The Chinese, who are trying to essentially colonize Africa through finance, they're going over there and they're trying to help them maintain roads and things like that. And they're like, these trucks are 2 years old and they're falling apart already because these African nations don't understand the concept of maintenance. They understand the concept of repair, but they don't understand the concept of maintenance. They think the things are the same. Instead of maintenance prevents repairs, they think maintenance and repairs are the same thing. And the infrastructure is falling apart. So there's, if I was Trump, I wouldn't go to the G20 summit either. I absolutely wouldn't. There's no reason to. What are y'all going to talk about? What are y'all going to talk about? So it's pretty funny that they're trying to say this. Multiple sources are called the White House withdrawal effectively a U.S. pullout from the Forum of Major Economies. And experts noted that Trump's boycott threat and accusations were viewed as outlandish. Whatever. You have to understand, Trump's operating in his second term without caring about anybody. Like, why does he care? Why does he care? He shouldn't have to. I wouldn't if I was him. Like, whatever. You guys do what you got to do. You want to have your fun little meeting in South Africa and pretend like everything's fine down there? Go ahead and do it. I wouldn't sit there and pretend that the stuff that's happening isn't happening just for the sake of everybody trying to be nice. No. I'll give Trump a good Trump on that one. I actually think that's a good Trump. Don't go down there and don't give these people yeah, right? Because when you go to South Africa, all that's going to be is it's going to be however many, was it 2 or 3 days or 4 days? It's going to be a lecture about how white colonists destroyed South Africa and how we need to pay money to fix South Africa, despite the fact that South Africa is the richest nation or country in Africa. And it's only the richest country in South Africa because of the Dutch colony and the European infrastructure that made it that way. But we're still going to be lectured about it. So you're right. We give the Africans billions of dollars annually. We give them billions of dollars, and yet we're still told we have to give more. What are we giving the money for? What's it for? What is the end result of it? There is none. It's just another constant lecture fest that I wouldn't want to go and do that. And nothing happens at these meetings anyway, where it's like, oh yeah, let's talk. It's the G20 acts like people don't have phones, Wi-Fi, and the internet, or the ability to contact and talk to each other instantaneously. So this is absolute. It's all just stupid. It's all just really, really dumb. So anyway, that is that. This is RickCast. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, the speed of really fast bus. Not really the speed of light. That's right. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. Everybody hit the like button. Even on Rumble, hit the like button. Get a repost. Hit the like button. Help me out. Not help me out. You guys are helping me out by watching the show, and I greatly appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on in the show. We thought Macho Man elbow drop. So we thought that the summer of 2025 was going to be spicy. With the outlandish actions of the left, the Tesla attacks and all these other things, and the rhetoric that's being fired up. And then this dropped today. Minnesota officials react to speculation on Derek Chauvin's parole. As the 5th anniversary of George Floyd's death approaches, speculation that President Donald Trump may issue a federal pardon of Derek Chauvin has increased to the point of drawing sharp and preemptive responses from Minnesota's Democratic political leaders, as well as public safety officials in the Twin Cities. This is very interesting because Trump said he wasn't going to do it. So why, after Trump said he wasn't going to do it, why are they continuing to push this? Because they want to gin up controversy. They want to gin up the rhetoric. They want to make people mad. That's what they want to do. And they find this a perfect way to do so. Let's continue. KSTP, the ABC affiliated stationed in St. Paul, ironically enough, reported Tuesday that Governor Tim Walz, the Minnesota National Guard, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, who's still there and he looks like he's 15, Attorney General Keith Ellison, who is a straight-up communist, have all been warned about the potential unrest if the president pardons Chauvin, a move some MAGA influencers But first of all, Ben Shapiro has been the one pushing this. The Daily Wire has been pushing this. And the Daily Wire is not MAGA in any way, shape, or form. Not that I'm MAGA, but I want to make that, and Newsweek is not made. They're saying MAGA influence. The Daily Wire is pushing that. Nobody else is. While Trump has denied any plans to pardon Chauvin as recently as March, Minnesota officials who spoke with Newsweek said they're not taking any chances. No, what they're doing, since this is the 5th anniversary of the death of George Floyd, is they're trying to use it in conjunction with all the other protests and all the other things that people are freaking out about with Trump to try and gin up more unrest, especially in a place like Minnesota and Minneapolis, where if it happens, Tim Walz is just going to kind of cuddle up in the corner in the fetal position and let it happen. Let's see. We don't need it. We already talked about all this. Minnesota Attorney General and avowed communist Keith Ellison, who the prosecution of Derek Chauvin, told Newsweek he was unequivocal in his views of the case. Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd. No, he didn't. In front of the whole world, which was a selectively shown video. Ellison, and this is all just fodder. And this was the problem that people like myself, Jason Whitlock, and others said when it was like, why are we bringing up Derek Chauvin? Because now you've given fuel to the left. The left is going to say, and what does the left do well? They fearmonger. They fearmonger better than anybody else. And now the left has been given this by Ben Shapiro, by the Daily Wire, this perfect fear bait to make everybody nervous about, well, what happens if Trump does it? What happens if Trump does it? Even though the family of Derek Chauvin is saying, please do not do it. Please don't do it, because it's going to put Derek from a nice federal prison in Texas where he's okay to a state prison in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, where he most likely will be unalived. Because they will absolutely, do you think the prison guards in Minnesota are going to protect Derek Chauvin? Not in any way, shape, or form. So forget that nonsense. This is just this right here. This headline was one of the main reasons why people like myself pushed back as hard as we did on Ben Shapiro and others when they first started. We got to pirate Derek Chauvin. That was the perfect time to pirate Derek Chauvin, even though Ben Shapiro wanted Derek Chauvin pretty much fried in 2020. He said that Chauvin murdered him and all these other kinds of things, and now he was trying to turn around. This is, of course, before Jeremy Bourne was fired and the Daily Wire began its free fall into oblivion. I mean, it won't ever be completely useless, but it's not as impactful as it used to be. Yeah, that's why we want them to open their stupid mouth, but they did, and this is what we're dealing with now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, last story of the night here on RickCast. I'm very thankful for all of you guys for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. It's always a great time to have you guys with me, especially when the shows aren't as engaging as they could be. It's you guys that make the show good, not me. Never forget that. Let's see here. Last story. Let's get it up on the screen. There it is. Let's do a little entertainment news. Disney will name Bob Iger's replacement in 2026, James Gorman, to become board chair next year. Something moving? No, it's me. Disney will name a successor to Bob Iger in 2020, but don't worry, he's going to be there the rest of his life. He's got an advisor position. He's advisor. He'll be advisor there forever. He'll keep a sweet salary and all these other kinds of things. Iger's 4 direct reports: ESPN chairman Jimmy Pitaro, Disney Experiences chairman Josh D'Amaro, Disney Entertainment co-chairman Dana Walden, and Alan Bergman have all interviewed with the succession committee. Dana Walden is supposedly, if you looked at a female version of Bob Iger, that's who she is. if you were to frame this in the way that we just did with the election of our new pope, she's like the Francis to Bob Iger. She's Francis too. This guy, Josh D'Amaro, who just landed a pretty amazing deal, at least for the stockholders, with the Disney Abu Dhabi thing we talked about earlier. I think he's going to be the new CEO, because he bailed Bob Iger out of the last call, where he was able to give Bob Iger a win that he was able to go talk about. So that's why I think it's going to be him. So Disney has tapped James Gorman to replace Mark Parker as the company's next chairman, effective in January, as the media giant lays the groundwork to name a successor for CEO Bob Iger in 2026. Disney board has benefit. I don't care about any of this. I don't. Disney had initially targeted 2025 to announce a successor, as CNBC reported last year. Pushing the date back to early 2026 will give the board more time to conduct due diligence. This means they can't find somebody, or Bob Iger refuses to leave. Iger's 4 direct reports, ESPN chairman Jimmy Pitaro, we already said that, have all interviewed. Gorman said in a CNBC interview in March, before taking over as the board successor, that Disney was running a forward-looking, blah, blah, blah. Here's what we need to know about this story. Disney is trying to get out of the hole that Bob Iger dug them into, and he's dug them into a pretty nasty hole right now. Their movies are flopping. The only thing that's making money are the parks, and they're barely doing so at this point, only because they're charging an arm and a leg. Bob Iger's return to Disney has been a disaster, and he cannot wait to get out. He had hoped, there was a lot of talk after Bob Iger's first tenure at Disney, that he was going to run for the Democratic nomination in 2028. That was his goal. But returning to Disney and running it ostensibly into the ground has destroyed his presidential dreams, which is why they're grooming Stephen A. Smith to run for president in 2028. Just remember, Jason Whitlock said it first. I'm echoing what he said. I think Stephen A. Smith will be running for the Democratic nomination at that point. But they've got 4 potential replacements. This one, Dana Walden, she is Bob Iger 2.0. She's desperate for the job. She wants it. Jimmy D'Amaro is the one that just gave him a victory with the Abu Dhabi park, allowing Bob Iger to brag that, they had this new park and all these other kinds of things, even though it's really a licensing deal. And we'll see how this takes shape going forward, because Disney needs to get rid of Iger. Iger is nothing but a negative at this point. The goodwill he had from his first tenure is over. Disney is kind of in a free fall with their entertainment side. Their parks are barely surviving, but they're trying to at this point. They're barely holding on, and they desperately need a new direction. And that's why everybody's kind of looking to this new CEO, even though Bob Iger will still have an advisor role there. So the process begins. All right, that's it for this episode of RickCast, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, do all the fun things to help the show grow. Glad to see you guys on Rumble, on Getter, on X, on YouTube, and on Twitch, to my one watcher on Twitch. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I'll talk to you tomorrow, where I do double duty, where I'll do my show, and then I will do News from the Pew with Steve. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. God bless, and until that day comes, free Dexter Taylor.